Things off for you here. It's been a warm winter till
I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's going on?
global warming.
I guess.
Some memories stand out of this building when you came in here still?
I lived there for 10 years. That's my home. So my daughter, she's 13 now, she lived there for 11 years because my wife stayed back for a year. So that's home to her. She was very disappointed she didn't make the trip. Yeah, so lots of good memories, good friends, good people.
Before we maybe ask you about your team, what do you think about what they've done with the place here? Jets #1 team in the NHL. Do you always feel they maybe had this with this core in them? And
Well, since day one, Chevy said draft and develop, and he stuck to his plan, and it's paying off. They've had with the team had good years. They're really well coached, and they play. When we watch the pre-scout, they defend really well, dynamic offensively in the offensive zone, but they're well structured, and it seems like they're respecting. They know who they are. They've created that team identity, and when they make a mistake, because it's a game of mistake. You have Mr. Hellebuck in the net that can save the day, so it's a real good hockey team.
you're a humble guy, so I know you won't take any credit, but your fingerprints are on some of these players and what they've turned out to be. Is there a little bit of pride there to know that you played some role in some of these guys' development?
I wish I didn't do such a good job with those guys playing them tonight. No, you know what? You say humble. I'm a realistic person. It takes a full staff to help those young men, and Marty Johnston, Eric Dubois, and the whole coaching staff. We tried our best, but you can try to coach. I think the one thing that the players did really well was they were coachable, and they wanted to learn, and they wanted to get better, and they draft really well. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things.
Yeah, a guy like Mason was talking to Freezer and I and said he loved how you held guys accountable. You shared a story, remembered things were going really well from one year, and he had maybe a couple off games. He came in and suddenly found that he was on the fourth line, and his instant reaction would have been maybe to storm into your office.
Yeah.
But he said in hindsight it was exactly what he needed, and that's kind of true to who you are and what you are. Have you carried that now into your head coaching job here? Because you've had some tough decisions to make, right?
Yeah, well, I believe in accountability, and it starts with me. And I remember that with Mason, he was playing really well, and then we felt as a staff he wasn't playing up to his potential. And I think you can hold people accountable when you care about them, and they know that. And Mason, I remember that day like if it was yesterday. I remember that practice. He found out he was on the fourth line. He was the best player on the ice by far, and he just took off from there. I can't remember if we played him on the fourth line the next. I guess we did, but that didn't last too long. And but he responded well when I said he was coachable, and Mason has a lot of character, so he responded well.
I often think of the assistant coach to head coach transition as a tough one. Sometimes they say good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
How have you kind of handled that? Maybe you've had to make some real tough ones too with Patrick, especially.
You know what? It hasn't been difficult because I don't play games. I am who I am, and I'm not trying to be a good cop or a bad cop. I just speak the truth. So even as an assistant coach or associate coach, what you see is what you get. And if I think you played a good game or you're doing the right things, I'll tell you. If you don't, you don't. So I think the transition went pretty smooth in that regard.
You didn't get this job in a typical way. How do you kind of reflect on the way you got it and how ready you were?
Well, 30 years of coaching helped me. I'll tell you this. Claude Noel, remember Claude? Always told me you need to go in the American League at least 3 years. That's a great school, and he was right. So I was there for 5 years with the Moose, and I think the junior years, yes, that prepared me, but not as much as 5 years in the American League, also working with Claude, but Paul Maurice, we spent an awful lot of time together. He was a great mentor for me. So the 5 years at the NHL level, learning from, to me, one of the best, if not the best coach. And then going in the American League, be supported by the management, the staff we had, finding the right people to work together. I think all of this prepared me properly for that new challenge.
Your team this year, Pascal, looks like you guys have the makings of a very good hockey team. You've had a lot of games where you've held leads, but you also been dealt, a real bad hand in terms of injuries and whatnot. Do you just feel like there's been some growing pains this year with a young group? And
Very much. So new coach, transition this summer, like the things happened just before camp. We're building, we're trying to build on the culture that was there, but improve the culture, accountability, expectations, and all of that. But I'm going to tell you this, the players are all in. And yes, we have a younger group, but we make mistakes. It's a game of mistakes, like I said, but we're the mistakes, I can understand them, and we can coach them, and we can correct them. So the growth has been consistent. We're in games. The things that we need to improve is, let's say, the defensive zone coverage, for example. It's not so much the structure or how they try to do it. It's more the strength and the time that it takes to become a solid NHL player. So it's going to be interesting because now, as you guys know, second part of the season, teams are getting better and better. The game is a little bit faster. There's not much space, so it will be interesting how our team reacts.
in that sense, would you almost point to the team you're going to see tonight here on the other side of the ice as a team? The Jets, we've heard a lot of that about the Jets, growing pains and needing to mature and develop. And it seems like this year they've certainly taken those steps.
Yeah,
Right?
well, I see, like I said, I see a team that is well structured, but I see a team. It feels like they're all on the same page right now, and that will help you win games, even if at nights like you don't have Kyle Connor in the lineup. You have a team playing, and they're all on the same page. So no systems are perfect, no games are perfect, but when your team is on the same page, it becomes closer to perfection, and that's what I'm seeing from the Jets.
Pascal, given how much Winnipeg's meant to you, what will it mean to be a head coach on the bench tonight?
I think that's the one that I think about it, but I can only answer it once I live it. Like I said, this building was basically my home for close to 10 years. So it's going to be. It was interesting to come back here with Columbus, but being a head coach, it will be a different feeling. I'll tell you after the game.
One more about you always talk about developing players, but what does it mean to see Marty Johnson get the chance to be up with the Jets and be an assistant coach now in the NHL?
Well, he's such a hard-working guy, I think, and he's a smart man, extremely loyal. So you look at the values that True North has in place. Coming from Mr. Chipman, he fits the organization, and I'm really happy for him. It was just, when I hired him to go back in time, I had a lot of resumes, and I remember getting a call from Claude Julien, and he said, hey, you have to speak to this guy. I didn't know Marty. I knew of him, and then first time I spoke to him, I felt, okay, he's got a real good chance to become a coach here. So we kept talking, and he finally got hired. But his progression, his growth has been dictated by his work ethic and his loyalty and his ability to learn and be a good team player. And he's a real good coach. I'm really happy for him.
What are you seeing from Adam? Sorry, go ahead, John.
Details question, Pascal. Your daughter, what's her name, and was she born here?
No, she was born in Montreal, but she was not even 1 year old when we moved there. So her name is Genève.
Geneva?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like Geneva, the city, but Genève in
Okay,
French.
Genève,
Yeah.
okay.
Pascal, from Adam Fantilli's evolution this year, like what has kind of led to his strong play since December? He's got like 14 points last 17 games. What's led to him kind of going on this upward trajectory?
Well, he's certainly a very powerful man for such a young guy. He's got a swagger about him. Like he feels he deserves to be in this league, and he feels that he can make a difference in this league. He can skate, he's big, very mature, but I think his mindset is the difference maker here. Tremendous skills, obviously. He still has a lot to learn, but his mindset is right. He wants to compete, and he wants to compete against the best. And right now, because of our injuries, he's facing most nights the top line players, top D pairings, and he's still doing well. So it's fun to see him grow, and we have big expectations for him.
In terms of his skills, like what makes him such a special talent? Like what isolated skills would you say?
His ability to make plays at a real fast speed. He can make plays moving his feet. His shot is really good. He can shoot the puck really quick. His release is unbelievably quick. But again, I'll go back to his mindset. He can skate. He can play. He's got great skills. All of that. But he's got no fear in his game. He wants to be a difference maker.
In the first couple, like month and a half or so, he was kind of playing in different spots in the lineup and whatnot. But I talked to him just before this, and he said he never really lost his confidence and such during that period. What did you see from him, a young player that was being put in fourth line left wing, center, top line left wing, like all over the place?
Yeah. Well, he's right. He's never lost his confidence. I think what we did is we tried to explain our decisions. There was an understanding. We just didn't put him at positions where he didn't know what's going on. He understood there was a plan behind it, but credit goes to him. He's right. He's never lost his confidence. He thinks he's a good player, and he is, and he plays that way.
And last question for that: is there been any moments this year where he's really wowed you in the sense of just whether it was a play or just his character, or whatnot, where you've really been taken aback?
Yeah, no, there's quite a few. You look at his goals. I mean, he can release that puck like no one else, or as good as anyone in this league at a young age. But it's more his compete level, his ability. He's been physical at times.
Yeah.
He's not, and physical to me is not only giving body checks, but putting himself in a vulnerable position to make the next play. He's been improving recently with his face-off percentage at a way faster rate than I would have expected. He's a hockey player. He wants to play hockey, and he wants to be a difference maker.
What's your lineup tonight? I'm sorry? Lineup tonight?
Same as last game. No changes. Tarasov.
With Spencer backing up?
Yes.
So you work all these years, and now you're at this peak of the profession. How does it compare to what you expected so far?
Well, the one thing so I've been coaching for 30 years. That part, dealing with people, I think I'm good at that. Setting standards, accountability, I do it naturally. What I didn't expect, and Paul Maurice told me this, what I didn't expect is how much you get pulled away from your job as a coach, whether you're not assistant, you're head coach, but how much you get pulled away from your job to fill the position in the NHL. That takes time away from doing your actual job, which is coaching the team.
So media stuff or no?
Well, all of it, like you're supervising a bunch of stuff, the meetings with the players, the meeting with the staff, like special teams, you're so it takes a lot of time away from your job itself. So that's one thing Paul mentioned to me, and at some point, that's why he said having the right people is so important around you, and having trust in your people. So that's the one thing that is different. But you know what? When I was told I'd get the job, I know it wasn't like normal or normal circumstances, but it was throughout those 30 years, or I'd say the last 10, 12 years, you wonder, like, is it going to happen at some point? And when it does finally happen, all the doubts, because there's some dark days too during that period, you don't know, and you wonder if it's going to happen, and you're finally there. But it's just the tip of the iceberg. Now, to get there is one thing. That was hard. To stay there, that's a different animal. So that's my goal now.
Yeah.
Just with one last thing with Fantilli, what led to him getting this role alongside Johnny?
He's just a good player. He's, you know what, we felt him and Johnny, and now we have Danforth on that line. That's been a good line for us. That, you know, the style of play that he has combined with Johnny, I think it fits both of them. So, but you know what, we're you know, every game we have the same lineup today, but we had a lot of changes throughout the season. If it works tonight, great. If it doesn't work after a period, we might see some changes.
Awesome. Thanks, Pascal.